What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Movie Talkies. So this time, Dan and I thought we'd switch it up a little bit. We're gonna be going with a little bit more of a podcast style vibe. In the Intune headquarters today, with a different setting from the red couch that you remember. But we still keep the motif of the red couch, of course. The red motif is still here.
But yeah, like Gurj said, we're gonna do more of a discussion-based video today. It's gonna be a little bit on the longer side, so if you want to stick around for the entire thing, much appreciated. Or you can skip ahead. We'll put some timestamps of all the kind of discussion points we're gonna talk about throughout the video. But the subject of today's video is it's a big day in the Marvel universe, and what else will we talk about on Intune Productions other than the Avengers?
We're officially in the endgame now.
Officially, we have now reached April 2nd. The countdown has begun.
24 days till endgame.
24 days. So, today, what has happened today? Well, Marvel has opened up ticket sales for the much anticipated Avengers Endgame. And so, instead of just, releasing ticket sales, they also released another trailer for us to check out, which is super awesome. So, we're going to give our thoughts on that.
Yeah, let's start our conversation off with some new stuff. We'll do a little bit more of a breakdown today of the trailer that came out. A minute, I think. It was just a minute. They released it on Instagram first, and then it came out on YouTube. Pretty much just with the aspect ratio.
Well, he sent it to me this morning because he texted me I woke up at 5:30 in the morning. Gurj texted me. He's like, "Yo, bro, I got us tickets." And I was like, "Wait, what?" I was still asleep at this point. I'm like, "What do you mean you got us tickets?" Like, for some reason, I don't know why, but the first thing that popped in my head was Pet Cemetery. I thought you bought us tickets for Pet Cemetery. We were talking about going to Pet Cemetery, but for some reason, that's the first thing that kicked in my head. I was like, "Oh, okay, sick." But then he sends me his Avengers shit, and I was like, "Oh, right, Avengers."
Yeah.
So I had no idea that that ticket sales opened up. So thank God Gurj was on his A game today.
I was on my A game.
Got us tickets, and so anyways, with the ticket drop came the 1 minute trailer, and so Gurj sent me the 1 minute Instagram teaser, and then of course I watched it about 5 billion times since
a lot of new footage, a lot of new footage in this trailer. Why don't we start it off with footage manipulation? Do you think there was a lot of it in this trailer?
Okay, so this has been kind of a thing that's been talked about. I've been watching a lot of theory videos. Shoutouts to New Rockstars. I love those guys.
Yes.
If you're watching this, I love you, Eric Voss. You make awesome content. But anyways, New Rockstars made a video talking about all the kind of Easter eggs as they usually do in the Avengers trailers. And one thing that's come up a couple times in many videos is people have been talking about how, we see the same shots in every trailer, but there's certain things added or taken away, and this isn't the first time that Marvel has done this. They did it in the Infinity War trailer. Remember at the final scene of the teaser when they're all running towards the camera in slow-mo? Half of the characters aren't even in that. And
that shot, I think, is not even... I think this is a Russo brothers thing, if I'm being completely honest here. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know if a lot of you know this, but rumors in the Twitter sphere are that they only gave 8 minutes to their editors to show in the trailer. And only 50%, I think, of the footage that they gave their editors is actually in the movie. Mm-hmm. So literally, we're only watching 4 minutes of the actual film in all of these trailers that have come out in the 8 minutes that we've seen. And I don't know what is actually going to be in there. This is crazy.
Well, yeah, so going back to that idea, the footage manipulations. For example, in all 3 trailers, we've seen them at Avengers HQ. Yes. But in Avengers HQ, they add a different character in every scene. Yep. So, the first time we just see, a Black Widow, Cap, and Bruce Banner, and Hawkeye.
Yes.
And then the second time,
we get Ant-Man.
We see Ant-Man, and we see War Machine, and a couple others. And then the third time, we get all of them in there, minus Bruce Banner.
And who else is back in this trailer? There's 2 characters that are back. Nebula and Tony Stark.
Mr. Stank himself is back. Tony Stank is back from the dead. Just kidding, he didn't die. But yeah, no, that was another discussion topic from the last trailer. Yes. A lot of people were really upset that they showed him
back, and now they show more of him.
More of him back, and but not only more of him back, but we saw it's straight now up there assembled now. They're back. The team is back now.
So kind of tying into that, do you think there was some potential time travel that we saw? Him flying around in New York. Do you think that's going back to the Battle of New York?
Yes. Okay, so...
You had some interesting thoughts about this.
Yes. So that shot we'll pull up the part from the trailer, but the shot where Iron Man's flying in this 1 minute teaser in the sky. For some, I don't know why. I don't really have justification, but you can see the New York skyline and the cloudy sky for some reason.
And the immediate thought is
my immediate thought was
Cutajar.
the Battle of New York. But then the follow-up shot after that is like a cityscape, and there's rubble and stuff.
Oh,
and when he's shaking
that's when
Cap's
Tony
hand.
and that's when Tony and
so for I don't know, for whatever, it could be totally unjustified. It could have just been New York after Thanos attacked in Infinity War, or not when Thanos attacked, when the Black Order attacked.
Yeah.
It could have very well just been them standing in the streets, because New York looked like that in that too. But for some reason, it just looked like the Battle of New York, and there has been lots of talks of them potentially going back to the Battle of New York, because that's when we first see
the Avengers assemble.
Yes, and that's when they have their hands on the Tesseract as well. So that could potentially, when they go back to try and get the Space Stone and try and get that away from him. But yeah, it's just an interesting, shot selection there, just because it's like, it just seemed very random to have Iron Man flying around a broken New York. So I'm like, is that possibly Battle of New York?
Could be Battle. So here's the thing with that as well. There's that shot of Tony and Cap finally shaking hands, and you mentioned this, and now it's got me thinking. But Cap's not wearing his gloves. In that shot.
So when I came over to Gurj's, when we were first watching it, the first thing I said, because it just struck me, and I think I might have landed on some gold here
with the manipulation,
with the shot manipulation. He's not shaking Cap's hand, because the shot before, when he's like, "Do you trust me?" Captain America's wearing his armor.
Yes.
And every time he's suited up, he wears brown leather gloves. And he's not wearing leather gloves when they shake their hands. So, like, that to me looks like they're about to go into battle, or they just finished a battle.
Yeah.
So why would he not have his
Or
his
could it
gloves
be
on?
a future Tony Stark meeting a past Cap?
See, I'm still not...
I can't tell with this time travel stuff.
How are they going to do it?
I don't know.
Because we haven't seen...
There's no clear indicator of it happening, except for the fact that all of these shoots, like images that have come out with them being in the Battle of New York. We see Loki again during the first Avengers. We see Thor with his blonde wig again. So it's one of those things where it's like, what is going on in this movie? And that's what I think is like tying into that like footage manipulation and like that 8 minutes thing with the Russos, where it's like, they really do not want us to know what is happening in this movie.
Well, I'm just very curious to see how they're going to handle time travel, because we've never actually seen time travel in
Marvel.
Well, yes, we have, but it's just like the way they've handled time so far in the Doctor Strange movie, and then like at the end of Infinity War, it's literally just rewinding. Right? We haven't seen the idea of seeing yourself in the past.
Right.
So I'm wondering, is that going to happen? Are they going to run into alternate versions of themselves? Or is it just literally they're going to go back in time and be themselves in that moment again? With the knowledge they now have.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
So
I'm like, is it going to be like...
They'll keep the Tesseract because they know what it's capable of doing now after Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
We have Vision, who's powered by it. Unless they want to get the Soul Stone from it again, or the Mind Stone from it again, and give it to Vision.
Because time travel has been handled in movies in many different ways. So I'm just wondering if they're going to go with they see them an alternate or the past version of themselves, or are they going to time travel and be themselves in that moment, but with the future knowledge that
I'm very curious. And like with with it going into Thanos' taunt when he at the end of the trailer, when he's like, even with your failure, you're still coming back to me. It haunts you so much. So like, what is going on there? Like, are they traveling in time and Thanos is trying to stop them from getting all the stones?
Well, what my biggest question is now. So like, what is Thanos' role in this movie? Because no, seriously, because Thanos has accomplished what he wanted to accomplish, right?
And he was on the farm planet thingy at the end of the Infinity War.
So that's my question, because like now he's not really the bad guy if you think about it, because now he's done what he's done. He did what he wanted to accomplish.
So are they?
They're like antagonizing him.
Exactly.
Like they're just going for straight up revenge, because like Thanos has done what he needs to do. He's not going back. He doesn't.
And he kind of like separated himself from that whole like thing, anyways, where he said like that was it. Like,
but even still, like what makes Thanos so interesting is his whole conquest was not personal.
Yes,
he was not going for personal gain or because of some vengeance for the Avengers.
No,
the remaining Avengers that have lived after the snapping, as the internet has deemed it, he doesn't care. He's like, yeah, live in peace. You do your thing, man. Like, I just wanted to just make sure that there's enough resources for the universe to live, to sustain. So it's just like, he doesn't have any vengeance for these guys.
He's already accomplished his goal.
Exactly. So that's why I'm saying, so like, okay, so now like he doesn't really have a role other than to like defend himself or make sure the Avengers don't screw up his original plan.
What did you think about his new weapon? That sword thing that we saw.
Okay, so we haven't confirmed.
He's sitting there like Hamlet, like, you know, waiting for them to walk up, and you see this little sword thing right beside him.
We haven't confirmed that it's a new weapon, but I just did find it interesting in that final shot. You know, he's sitting on the rock. You see, obviously, the big three: Captain America, Thor, and Tony Stark, walking like very like begrudgingly towards him, and he's just there like doing the Tim Tebow or whatever on the rock. And we see beside him, it's out of focus, you can't really tell, but it looks like some kind of Thanos Darth Maul lightsaber thing. He's got like a dual
it's like a dual bladed sword. So both of us have this theory where, not this theory, but like we both think that that last kind of battle that's happening is on Titan, and now we're thinking, why the heck are they on Titan? We'll get a little bit more into that later on in the video.
Why are they on Titan?
Or why is
why is Thanos
why
on
is Thanos
Titan?
there? Yeah.
Like, he has no reason. So I'm a little bit, we jumped ahead a bit there, but I do want to talk about, you know, how, you know, the internet kind of freaked out in the last trailer, how Tony Stark was shown at the end.
Yeah.
But then in this trailer, they just completely embraced the idea of Tony Stark, just like they're all back together, right?
Yep.
And so there were a couple theories that surfaced that maybe Pepper Potts was going to play into Tony Stark's rescue.
Well, yeah, the cool thing is her armor is actually called Rescue.
Right.
Tony says a lot of stuff in these trailers.
It's very cryptic.
And even in this trailer, like he's basically the driving force in this theater, right? Or in this trailer, and like, are we finally coming to the closing character arc for Tony Stark as a character in Marvel? I mean, obviously he's the one that started it all off with Iron Man, and I think only fittingly so he should be the one to finish it all. And that does kind of make me sad to say, to see Robert Downey Jr.
Literal
leave.
tears. Literal tears in the theater. I'm actually gonna be like,
I'm prepared, guys. My water tank.
I'm not prepared at all.
I'm gonna cry. I'll put that out there. I am going to actually shed tears when literally this happens.
Love you.
It's like silent theater. Me and Gurj just hugging each other with a box of tissue.
It's gonna happen.
Anyway, but yeah, no, it's just interesting to see how you know, they just embrace the idea of just showing the team back together in this 1 minute teaser. We didn't get it in the official trailer, but we got it in this teaser.
Funny you mentioned the team back together. So there's that one shot where all of them are kind of standing in the Avengers HQ, and you notice that someone's missing.
And they're all standing up like concerned.
Yeah, and Bruce Banner's not in that shot, guys. So, footage manipulation? Is he at this point Professor Hulk? Does he think that this is it? Like he's gotta actually become both a combination of Banner and Hulk. So have the smarts of Banner, but have the strength of Hulk.
Okay, this is just coming. I just thought of this because coming out of left field, but it would kind of be because it's a Marvel movie, so there's gonna be hints of comedy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how in Infinity War, Bruce is like, man, we really got some stuff to work out. When he's talking to Hulk, what if everybody was having an intervention for him and Hulk, and then all of a sudden Hulk comes out and they're all like, oh shit, Hulk's here, and they're like, but they haven't seen Hulk in however many years, so they think Hulk's like this big. It's like, all right, big guy, they start doing.
But then they find out that it's a combination of both Banner, and Hulk. Ooh.
That would be kind of a cool little comedy scene there, cool. But there was also another and again, this is from the new Rockstars video. I know Eric Voss has touched on this a lot.
Yeah.
But there's a shot of them in Avengers HQ where you see Ant-Man, and I don't know if you've seen that video, but there's a few frames where it almost looks like fire is like imploding into the building. Right? So there's a shot of Ant-Man in the last trailer. So it's a slow motion shot. Ant-Man's looking up and you can see like it's starting like light is coming from behind him. And then you know the shot after that where he jumps on the pencil in miniature form. They're saying that there's an attack on the base. And like that, like why would there be a pencil?
That could tie into the shot of Hawkeye running in those.
I think that's something different. Because that doesn't look like Avengers base.
Speaking of Hawkeye,
you
see his little sleeve?
He's sporting a new look. Like they went from like you know, like good old wholesome Clint on the farm with his family to like biker Clint.
Yeah,
like he's like
he's got the
straight
mohawk
up
going
mohawk
on,
with a
the
gnarly
little
sleeve tattoo. Yeah, he looks cool.
You know what? I think I'm gonna walk away from this movie thinking, Hawkeye was one of the coolest characters that we could have
I'm down for
seen.
brooding Hawkeye. I'm fine for it. Like, okay, and that was another point that I wanted to talk to you because I brought this up a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
I honestly think the first 20 minutes of the movie, like, I think the movie's literally gonna start with Hawkeye.
Yes.
I think that scene in the trailer where we see him teaching his daughter how to shoot an arrow, I literally think that's the first scene. And then as she, you know, he high fives her.
Become with the title, Avengers Endgame.
Well, she just dusts, and then he turns around, his family's gone, and then he's gonna like look into the sky, and then all of a sudden, Avengers Endgame. Yeah. I honestly think that's the first scene in the movie.
That could be it.
Because we haven't seen Hawkeye. Hawkeye's been kind of a joke. He's kind of been the butt of the jokes in Avengers.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think
he's gonna be
finally gonna redeem Hawkeye.
I think it was Eric who pointed out on that shot where it's like the wide angle of the daughter shooting the arrow.
Yep.
You can see right around his ankle he's got the same kind of bracelet that Ant-Man had in Ant-Man vs. Wasp. So he's under house arrest.
Well, they mentioned that. They mentioned that they're with the families right now. Literally, the end credits scene in Ant-Man and the Wasp is them getting decimated.
Right.
So I think it's happening at the exact same time as the Avengers are trying to stop Thanos, and Hawkeye's most likely gonna be all happy, doesn't know what's going on in New York City, and the next thing you know, he goes in for that high five with his daughter, and she just
decimates. That'll be like some sick. I literally think that's exactly how it's gonna happen.
That's gonna hit me in the feels.
As he high fives her, he's just like she just fucking decimates, and then he goes to like grab her, and he's just like. What? And then he like looks around and like wife's gone anyway. So yeah,
then you see a shot of him just shaving his head. And
just the 80s montage. It's actually a Joker origin story. He's tattooing.
Yeah. he becomes a Punisher instead of Hawkeye.
So let's talk about some news regarding the ticket sales today.
So
this is
funny,
friggin' hilarious.
Let me tell you something funny, guys. So I bought my tickets this morning around 5:30.
Gurj was on his A game this morning.
I was on my A game. It was good. Everything was good. It went through. We are secure.
We are officially going to see it opening night. Yes. Excited.
Can't say the same about other people though.
Yeah, sorry. If you're watching this and it's a bit of a salty spot right now.
Funny thing is, no, I wouldn't say funny thing. Sorry to anybody that's experienced this, but literally a few hours after I bought my tickets, Cineplex and AMC's sites went down.
It's just like it's down and out for the counting. Like since this morning when they went live, like if you pull up Cineplex.com right now, it straight up is just not working. Like you can't.
It's crazy.
It says like insert Cineplex logo here. Like the website is just down, which is actually crazy because like I mean this isn't something new. We've seen it before when like The Force Awakens first came out.
Yeah.
But for this long though, like I don't remember it being down this long.
It's crazy.
So I mean like. One, this is gonna be like the biggest movie.
This is an event, man. This is an event.
This is an event, and you know what? This is just I want to say like a lot of people roast the whole superhero movie fad and everything and how it's repetitive, and I get it. I totally do, but all credit where credit is due. This is a moment in cinematic history. Like this is going to be in film textbooks. As a film studies graduate, I can recognize that this is going to be something that will be taught about years down the road. It's a moment in film history where it's kind of we see this kind of trend in film every couple decades. Like before it was westerns, just film noirs, and like now it's the superhero film is the latest of trends to take over the Hollywood right now, and we're seeing it kind of come to a close now.
I think so.
So I don't know if it's gonna be the end, but like this was like the renaissance. Like when people talk about it, this last decade has been the renaissance of superhero films.
Yeah. Actually though, what are we talking? 22 films in Marvel Cinematic Universe. Seen every single one of them, and it's finally coming to an end for that kind of chapter.
This era, as they're calling it, the Infinity Saga.
Yes.
As Kevin Feige has
now been deemed the Infinity Saga. And what a saga it has been. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, no, and I mean, like, it's crazy, too, because, and going back to giving credit where credit is due, out of all those last film eras that I just named, not one has had every single film tied together into one universe like Marvel has, right? Every single 22 films, even though they're not directly sequels to one another, they're all interrelated. And now we're seeing the culmination of that. We saw it, like the beginning of it in Infinity War. Now we're seeing the final moments of it in Endgame here. So it'll be interesting to see where they go after this, because obviously it's not the end of Marvel. There's so many other stories to tell.
That's the thing. They haven't announced their next string of films after Endgame. Other than Spider-Man Far From Home, we really don't know what Marvel's going to do next.
It'd be interesting to see if they took a little bit of a break.
I actually am all for a break right now. I think it's been like every year we've had a Marvel film, and since 2008, and I think it's time that we're kind of take a little bit of a step back and just wait and focus on building the new saga, whatever it is that's going to continue.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, not to make it sound all, sugar-coated and whatnot, like, I haven't loved every single Marvel film. In fact, to be honest, I've been critical of like 70% of them. I can name like a handful that I really, really love and I hold close to me, but I get where people are coming from, where they can be repetitive and they can be boring or kind of cheesy. I get it. Trust me. I don't love every single Marvel film, but again, it's credit where credit's due.
It's the cohesiveness, I guess, of them, right? Like, it's the fact that I can watch the Thor: The Dark World, for example, and it still has something to offer to the whole saga, right? Like, there's something in Thor: The Dark World, like the Ether, for example. Like, it's literally a part of a stone, right? It's a reality stone. So it's one of those things where they all tie into something.
The tie-in is the Infinity Stones, right? That's how you bring all of them together. Although it's interesting because I find actually the two not the first one, but the second and the third Captain America films are the least related to all of the other MCU movies. Well, or at least the Infinity Saga.
I guess
because they're very personal stories. Captain America.
Civil War kind of ties into the fact that they're all like a broken team now, right? So that kind of ties directly into Infinity War, where it's like Tony can't rely at all on anyone. Well, that's at least what he thinks.
But what I meant by that is I meant like thematically, like how everything's tied together by there's at least mention of the Infinity Stone or some kind of form of the Infinity Stone.
Impending danger that's coming, impending doom.
In the last two Captain Americas, it's just it's a Bucky Barnes and Steve Rogers story and how that impacts the Avengers, right?
Interesting thing that you bring up there. I feel like the reason why we're so invested in Captain America as a character and why it will pain me so much to see him to go is the fact that they've done so much development on him as a character.
All of the characters,
right?
I mean, but I feel like we have a relationship with every single one of these characters, even the smaller ones.
But if you take like Captain America, for example, right? Like the first Avenger wasn't exactly a very popular film. Not a lot of people liked Captain America in it, but the actual film, they were like, whatever. Yeah. But then you come with like Winter Soldier, which is Russo brothers. Then you get Civil War, and then it's just more building on his character.
Well, and then him and all the Avengers
and you
movies.
see him like tying into all of these characters, and I think building him as such a strong standalone character in these films was like one of the greatest things that they could have done. And you really do see him as a leader of the Avengers, right? Him and Tony Stark are like the two leading things of the Avengers.
They're the two figureheads of Marvel, basically.
Exactly. And the Captain America movie, it didn't even really come out till after Thor and Incredible Hulk and Iron Man. It was literally like the fourth film in the MCU, and to see him become such a stronghold character, and this exact same thing that they did with Thor. I mean, with Ragnarok, right? Like he goes from a character that everyone's like, oh, such a boring character, and now we get into Thor and we're like, oh my god, he's so OP, like he's one of the best characters ever.
And I was just saying this because I recently just saw Ragnarok. I had not seen. In fact, I still haven't seen the first two Thor movies because they just didn't seem that appealing. I didn't find Thor that appealing of a character. But now I've seen Ragnarok, and now I've seen his character in Infinity War, and they've just completely made this kind of unrelatable, kind of godlike character. He's like, he's like, okay, cool, he controls thunder, whatever. But now they turn him into somebody who's literally lost everything. He's become more human than anybody in the Avengers, arguably. But they made him funny, they made him relatable. He's overpowered as hell. He seems like an awesome character now, and I'm very curious now. I would put him in my top 3 now. I like it, the final shot.
The final shot of
is my 3 favorites now. No, seriously, and that actually kind of leads into, you know, another discussion point, if not the last discussion point. But so, going into Endgame,
Yes.
you know, now that, you know, we've seen the culmination of all the Marvel films, I want to know what your top 3 are going into the final one. You know, like, give me your top 3 and why, and then I'll go do mine.
Okay. I think number 1 I want to talk about is Winter Soldier. And the reason I think I put it in my top 3 is for that very reason that I was saying earlier, is they take this character, Captain America, and they make him just so much better in this film. Like, right at that, like, starting point where, like when he jumps out of the plane, man, I knew, like, this was a different film altogether from what the original Captain America was. And I think that's the reason why I put it, like, in my top 3.
I have that movie in as well, but for different reasoning, so I'll explain why after. But okay, number 2.
Iron Man 1 in there as well. The OG. This is the one that started the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think that's why I put it in top 3. You know, it set the tone for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think. Having that lighter tone for those films. In an era where we had films like Batman Begins that were going on a little bit more of that darker approach to these characters.
Iron Man pretty dark, to be honest. When I was a kid, I was getting scared the crap out of
Yeah,
me.
but it has a little more of those, like, lighthearted moments.
It does,
in
yes,
there as well, right?
And that has to do with Tony Stark.
Exactly, and then that's like the other reason that I put it up there is just Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man for me.
Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man.
He's Tony Stark. I do not see anybody else in that character as that character.
They better not recast. That's what Marvel. Do not try and recast. If you're putting Robert Downey Jr. away, you're putting Iron Man away. That's it. I don't want to see anybody else.
At least not for the next 40 years.
Yes, at least for a while. Let the wound heal first. You know?
Exactly. You know, it's one of those things where I'm like, don't recast Hugh Jackman. That's the same reason. Like, he was Wolverine for me. And you know what? I think my number 3 is gonna go to OG Avengers.
Okay.
This was the first film that brought them all together. This was the first film that started off the Avengers Infinity Saga. Thanos was literally at the end of this film. We've been waiting since that first Avengers movie to see him actually be the final baddie for them. And I think the amount of hype that I had going into that original Avengers movie is the amount of hype that I'm experiencing going into Endgame right now. That original Avengers movie, I saw that 3 times in theaters, and every time I felt just like a little kid watching that movie. It was amazing.
We're a little kid watching it.
Yeah.
How old was like 13, 14?
Yeah, bro, I don't even know, man. But like, that feeling is still fresh in my head, and I think there's no other film that like replaces that film for me, like in terms of that like whole superhero world building idea, bringing them all together and having them fight Loki. Out of all the characters that you could have had, literally one of the best villains of Phase 1, I think. So those are my top 3. You got Winter Soldier, you got Iron Man, and you got the OG Avengers.
All right. Interesting, because like I have a very different outlook on it now.
Please.
So, this might be controversial, but honestly, like, my number 1, as of right now, of all the movies I've seen, I think Infinity War is probably my favorite movie right now from the MCU. And I know it's the most recent one, and I don't think that's why, though. I think for me, just being able to see the amalgamation of all these characters into one film and seeing them fight for their survival and seeing them fight for everything that they've worked for, only to lose. Like, I think that, and to see Tony Stark's journey, to be honest, I always liked Tony Stark, but I have come to love him even more as he's grown more desperate to protect what he loves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the beginning, he's hard to sympathize with because he's kind of like a cocky asshole who's rich and it's just like, okay, whatever. But as he's lost more and more and more and more, and as he, you know, fights, thinking about Thanos after the events of the first Avengers, and to see him finally come face to face with him.
The one character he's always feared. Yeah.
And then to lose. That to me, it brings chills to me every time to think about seeing every single one of them in the movie. Yeah.
Interesting thing about the fact that you mentioned them losing. So Kevin Feige actually in an interview said that was initially done on purpose. That like all of the Marvel films before that point, with all the characters winning, literally at the end of their own solo films, even though like no matter what they go through, is literally so by the end of Infinity War when they lose, you're like, oh my goodness, I would have never expected them to lose.
Yeah.
So he was always setting us up for this.
Yeah. And I think that's what does it for me too. And then the other thing, you know, I've kind of grown sick of the origin story formula. But in Infinity War, we see all of these heroes at their finest.
Yeah.
We see everybody giving their all out. So we get to see Doctor Strange at his best, like his most powerful spells. We see Iron Man's like final form basically. Cap was kind of underwhelming. I will say Cap was kind of one of my disappointments of Infinity War.
But I think they're saving him for Endgame.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just to see everybody all together fighting, it was just a joy for me to watch, and I can watch it any day of the week whenever I want because it's just so entertaining. The 2.5 hours feel like 5 minutes.
Fair.
So that's my number one. My number two is where I agree with you. And before Infinity War, this was my number one. It was Captain America: Winter Soldier, and kind of the same thing that Gurj was saying. It was like I had never been a huge Cap fan until this movie.
Fair.
After watching this, I was like, Captain America stood out to me from the rest, and seeing this is why he's the greatest leader, right? We see him like why he's so. Yeah. We see Steve Rogers as such a he's such a wholesome character. He will fight to the death to protect his best friend. He's like he literally at the end of that movie, we see him allowing Bucky to basically kill him, and if not for Bucky realizing what happened and pulling him out of the water, he very well might have died. So we see Steve Rogers. But when you were talking about the different reason why I love that film is it's so different. It's more of a spy kind
espionage
action film, and I personally I think next to Thanos, I honestly think that Winter Soldier is one of the coolest villains in the MCU, just because it's such a personal villain, right? It's Captain America fighting his personal demons and having to come and face to face with his former best friend. Well, I guess it is his best friend. But yeah, no, Winter Soldier, it was such an awesome film getting to see you see Scarlett Johansson in that film as well. So she's one of those cool characters that kind of floats in between all of the films. She's one of her and Tony Stark are the ones that can like seamlessly integrate themselves.
And like Nick Fury as well, like went in between all the films.
And then the whole Hydra subplot was really, really cool in that. Like in that scene where they infiltrate that bunker, that age-old bunker, and then what was his name? The scientist. I can't remember, the Hydra scientist, but remember when he's in the computer and he's like talking to them through the computer? I remember I like bone chilling. I was like, it was so intense for me.
I think that is one of the best twists I've ever seen in a film, where when you find out that Hydra has been behind Shield.
Yeah.
The entire time, and I literally was sitting in the theater and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
What just happened?
Mm-hmm. So number 2 for me, and so number 3 is a really hard one for me because I have a whole bunch of other like films that are close.
You can't pick between.
And I cannot pick. So right now, it's tough. I want to say Thor Ragnarok.
Okay.
Is number 3 for me.
Okay.
And again, it's different from your picks because mine are all relatively newer films.
Yes.
But again, I'm kind of a fan of being able to see all these characters, see their full potential. And like in the origin stories are awesome, but you don't get to see them in their full OP moments, right?
That's true.
And and being able to see Thor, really change character. He did a total 180-degree character spin from I was saying it earlier, but he went from this unrelatable kind of boring character speaking
Norse
Shakespeare
god,
in the park to being hilarious. We see his really cool like lightning powers. We see his relationship build with Loki. Yeah. That was the only time I've really connected with Loki in these films was in Ragnarok. I was just like, I actually, after seeing Ragnarok, I feel more bad for his death in Infinity War. I kind of felt sad. Even though Loki's been a villain for the last, however many years, I kind of see Loki as kind of like a friend or an ally now at the end of Ragnarok, even though he still does some shady stuff. But yeah, Ragnarok was awesome, but I also kind of want to give like really, really close third place to the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
I was about to say that would be like another kind of like contender. For third.
Contender for third is Guardians of the Galaxy, because that movie is just the first one that was just such a different film from the rest of the MCU. Yeah. And so this is funny because I was talking to Gurj about this earlier. I rewatched all the Guardians of the Galaxy.
So it's
movies.
funny, yeah. You didn't like Guardians at first.
It's not that I didn't like it, but I just
After
having Winter Soldier as my favorite film, and when I was talking why I liked Winter Soldier, such a boots on the ground, grounded film, to go and then completely flip it around and be in the space with a talking raccoon and a tree, and seeing that galactic side of the MCU, it was something I wasn't used to.
Yeah.
So it for me it was tough to adjust to. But after seeing Doctor Strange and Infinity War and seeing all of that, come into the Marvel universe, going back and watching it with that mindset, it completely changed everything about those movies for me, and I absolutely loved it going back and watching Guardians. And like we were saying, they're just so different from every other kind of MCU movie. They're funny, the soundtrack is awesome, every single character in that ensemble is great. So yeah, for me it's a toss-up between the first Guardians and Thor Ragnarok for third place. But
cool. Yeah, I guess I'll add Guardians to like my close third as well. I think just like the overall style that they went with like James Gunn being the director for that, like perfect, like.
Thank God he's back. We're not gonna go into that discussion, but thank God James Gunn is back for part 3.
There's nobody that could have that style better than him.
Because then it would just be that somebody trying to replicate what James Gunn did.
Yeah, and it's just not gonna work. But yeah, I think closing thoughts. Super hyped for Endgame. 24 days left. We're officially in the countdown now. Me and Dan are doing something fun. We're gonna be watching all the Marvel films in chronological order.
One movie a day
till Endgame comes out. Hopefully we keep up with it, and it'll just be enhance that viewing experience a little bit more to see the whole saga kind of come together. But yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are you excited? What are you most excited to see in this film?
Let us know your top 3 Marvel films up to date. We would love to know, and it's always good to hear other people's opinions. So yeah, to close off this long video, thank you if you stuck around for this long. Me and Gurj have been, tossing back and forth the idea of doing a longer style video. I know we do have a video on this channel where I did kind of a podcast with The Last of Us, so I wanted to kind of play with that format again for a long discussion. We just have so much to talk about when it comes to these Marvel films, because it's
share those thoughts.
It's been the last decade of our lives.
Yes.
Literally, our inspiration for making films and doing this channel, a lot of it has to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's going to be interesting seeing it all come to an end. And so speaking of coming to an end, we're going to wrap up this video now. So thanks again for tuning in. We will see you next time.